don't ever take no for an answer. And don't be afraid to ask, because I think that was the only thing I've ever done right. Was that it's so embarrassing to ask and get like told no, but you just have to get over that. And I think very early on, or as early as you can get over that feeling of like, you're gonna ask a lot of people and a lot of people are gonna tell you no.
Hello and welcome everyone to episode 18 of Yellow Colored Glasses. We have some fun guests here with us today that own a local business here in Pleasant Hill. But before we get things started, I'm going to read a review. This review comes from Brent G. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name. So Brent G says, Jake from Warren & Mounts Agency has handled my portfolio of properties for a few years now. He is always quick to respond as long as it's after 1 p.m. This has earned him the nickname Sunshine. It's a long story, so ask him about it sometime. Sunshine is my favorite. Truthfully, he always responds mornings and evenings. Trust me, I call him often. Even when he's on vacation, his team takes care of me. I'm pretty needy and demanding and have a lot of unique situations which he's been able to ensure. Thank you, Brent, for that review. Today with us, we have Tony and Katelyn Marlowe, the owners of WingHill Wine Co. in downtown Pleasant Hill.
Tony's opening up some wine as we speak.
Yeah,
so
sorry about that background.
He's getting all the goods ready to go.
Can't do anything without wine. So very important part.
So anyway, Katelyn and Tony, if you guys just want to start out, tell us a little bit about, do we want to start with the history, or do we want them to start with what they have now?
Well, so one of the main things that we do, on our podcast is obviously we highlight local businesses, and so you guys have been going 2 months now?
Yeah, opened it in October, and I should have the exact date in mind, but we wanted to open so much before that I just lost track of time, but we opened in October.
Okay.
So.
Okay, and obviously highlighting what they've got going on currently, but also when we have people on, we talk about business in general, and you guys have owned businesses and run multiple businesses for quite a while now. So we're going to get into a lot of that, but just start with telling us about what you have going on right now currently with WingHill Wine Co.
So currently with WingHill, we're still kind of getting information out there so people know that we're there, but it's gone really well so far. We're thankful to be downtown Pleasant Hill. We kind of do the weekly wine tastings, that sort of thing, change the menu out monthly, and that's been fun for everyone, I feel like, just to get people in the door.
So we're a retail and by the glass wine shop, and then we also have craft cocktails and craft beer as well.
Awesome.
So kind of a hybrid between both the retail and then the bar atmosphere. And this will be, like Katelyn said, I think we opened the first weekend in October. It's been really well received, and Pleasant Hill's actually been really great. So
for sure.
It feels like you've been around for longer than October.
And sometimes it feels like, that's why I was like, let's think about this, but it was really just October. But we've had the building for a while, and it took a lot of work to get it going. Mm-hmm. So it feels like we've been there longer than we've actually been open.
So Dustin and I actually met the two of them through T-ball.
Yeah.
Della, their oldest, and then Macklin, our oldest, were on the same T-ball team, and we got to know each other and talking, and they told us that they were opening this, and
I was like constantly late to everything. Like everybody else is there, and I'm like sprinting in because we were kind of working on the store. But it was like so nice and like such a fun way to meet you guys because, the kids.
For sure. And so before WingHill, there's also another wine store that we were familiar with before.
Yeah.
And so tell a little bit about kind of the history there too.
So we opened Red Door Wine Store in 2010 in downtown Lee Summit. And we were living in Lee Summit. And the honest story behind that was that I had lost my job because I did corporate event planning. And it was just when the market was tanking. Our biggest client was Tony's company.
Yeah, the company I worked for at the time they were our corporate event planners.
Yeah, it was like our biggest client, and they canceled their Christmas party that year. Yeah,
so you got laid off as a result.
So it was just all part of it. It was just kind of a bad time in the industry because when the market is not doing so well, you don't need like an event planner / party planner. And we had bought a house in Lee Summit, and we were looking for a place to have a good glass of wine, and there wasn't one. We tried, we looked, we worked really hard at it, and so that is kind of how Red Door was born, which is the same idea that we brought into WingHill, which is, you know, by the glass and retail, because we were married in 2009, and we wanted to go out and have a couple glasses of wine, but then at the same time, like, I wanted to be able to take a bottle home with my husband, and there was no one doing it at the time where you could get a glass of wine and then also get retail as well.
So having that idea, obviously, you started a business when you were in a time of kind of stress, right? Didn't have a job, didn't know what to do. And it fits in really with what we talk about on here a lot, and taking chances and taking risks and all that. So that fits right into that. Did you guys already have another business at the time, or was this the very first business that you'd ever started?
No, I mean, that was the very first business we ever did. Tony was working full-time, thankfully.
I was working in finance at the time, full-time.
Okay.
And then when I lost my job, this was like the first business that we decided to go into, because if there was a time to do it, it was kind of,
for sure,
it just felt right then to do it.
So what were the biggest struggles, or what are the biggest struggles with getting a business like Red Door or WingHill Wine, getting it off the ground? What's the number one thing?
Those were a little bit different in with Red Door. I was young. We were both young, but I was a little bit younger. And I had to go to multiple banks. I mean, it's just kind of one of those things where you're young and nobody really wants to give you a loan or a chance, and you just have to kind of keep working at that. So that was a big piece of it. But then the second piece was just going with our gut. Like, my gut 100% was like downtown Lee Summit. We did look at other places. Like, what is the shopping center in Lee Summit?
Like Chipman area?
Yeah, Summit.
Like Summit Fair.
Yeah.
Fair, okay.
So they were relatively new in 2010, and you could kind of go into those places. But it was just a gut feeling. Like, I kind of went there and I was like, this just is not exactly what we want. It doesn't give me that feeling walking into those businesses. So a lot of it was just like it was a lot of instinct.
Yeah, we fell in love with the downtown Lee Summit area.
And
There
there
wasn't
was
a whole lot
nothing
going
there.
on.
I was gonna say that's before that even started to boom.
Yes.
So
There was like not
Now
much
you
there.
can't find a parking spot.
Yeah.
Right there. There's nothing but
That's-
parking spots.
that's so true.
Yeah.
What brought you to Pleasant Hill?
So we had Red Door, for several years, and then we ended up selling Red Door shortly after, maybe a year or so, after we bought some property out in Pleasant Hill. We really fell in love with this area. We wanted some acreage. I have horses.
Yes, horses.
We have horses. And so we fell in love with this area, and we did the horse thing full time for several years, until, one fateful cup of coffee. Good old press monkey.
So we moved here in 2012, 10 years ago, and then built a barn for her horses. And that expanded into another barn, and that expanded into an indoor riding arena, and then a huge outdoor riding
So
arena.
you guys do things on a small scale.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we board horses full time as well.
Yeah, so we
okay.
board horses. So
Okay.
that, it was really the acreage that brought us here, and then that kind of spiraled into the store. And just honestly walking by that really cool old building.
Yeah.
And Tony really was the one that was like, I've always loved this building. I can't believe these are for sale sign.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, I'm so glad that somebody took that space and made something amazing out of it. You could tell it had the potential
Yes.
to
That
be
was all Katelyn.
so cool.
And it has a jail for the people that get out of control. So
Yes, happy to throw you in jail if you don't mind.
Isn't
mind
there
the rules.
bourbon in there? I don't know if that's a good place to be.
no, that's in the
So
That's
for
in the vault.
context,
That's the vault.
Oh, okay.
vault.
this place used to be a bank here back
Yeah.
in Pleasant
Yes.
Hills heyday. So there was a jail that was still
There.
inside of the building
Yes,
for all
that's
of the
so
bank
funny.
robbers who used to come to the bank. So
Yeah, and
Jesse
the-
James was rolling through.
And the vault is full of bourbon, so I mean, you might want to get thrown in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the old Citizen Bank building, and we
it's
just,
so cool.
it was just really, it all kind of came together.
And I kind of want to backtrack on the horses for a second. When Katelyn says she rides horses, she doesn't just ride horses. Like she's
it is more common in this area to kind of be Western, which is awesome, but I've always wanted to jump. That's always been my thing. I've always liked dressage. We actually have a pretty good-sized dressage program of other barns around here as well. And so be able to dressage and jump, you essentially have to event, which is not as well known kind of in the Midwest as it is on the coast.
What does that word mean that you're saying? Dressage?
Yeah, I know, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Horse dancing.
Yeah, so eventing is an Olympic sport.
Okay.
And so dressage, probably in layman's terms, is when you see people dancing with horses when they're riding. They used to be in top hats. That would be kind of like the image that comes to mind. Thankfully, everyone wears helmets now. But eventing is the best way to think of it is like a triathlon for horses and riders. So it is the same horse and rider for all three phases. You start off in dressage, which is like a flat part of it, a test that you would know. And then you move typically into cross country, which is when you would see people like jumping over a solid obstacle. And then the last phase is show jump, and that's a different day. And that's when you see like the little brightly colored rails. And if you knock a rail as a rider, it's very painful because that's a big penalty.
Gotcha.
If that makes sense.
Very
So you have
cool.
to complete all three.
Okay, I'm learning lots. Yeah. So, and if you guys, I know a lot of people that we know have already been down to your store and all that stuff. But if you have not been down there, it looks amazing. The feel when you walk in the door, everything. They're awesome, super, super nice. So you got to go check that out. It's incredible. So, what do you guys have here in front of us here? Like,
Let's get started on the fun stuff.
This is Tony's jam here. He wanted to make sure everybody had a little splash of something.
and if you guys have other questions that I'm missing, because normally I write stuff down here and I forgot to do that. Are we missing anything? Is there anything we need to be asking more?
I want to know where the love affair with wine came from.
Yes.
There's
Great
the
question.
That is a very popular question, and it does. It's interesting. So, my parents. My dad is they're both retired. My dad's a physical therapist, and my mom is an optometrist.
Oh, wow.
And honestly, my parents kind of got into wine. And they just kind of shared it with us. So for even growing up, when we got a little bit older, it was a big part of like dinners.
Okay.
So we used to have like a Tuesday night dinner, especially after we got married. But it was just a big part of dinners even growing up. So it wasn't just like, oh, mom and dad had wine like out of the fridge. It was, they did take the time to be like, hey, yeah, this is a Chardonnay, this is Cab Sauv, this is Sangiovese, this is something that dad bought when you guys were younger, and it's a 10-year-old. And so it was kind of, to us, it's a little bit, it's very much like about the family. So like we still do a Christmas dinner, no matter who can come or can't come. We always try to bring everyone brings like a 10-year-old wine. Wow. And it's something my parents did with their friends, and everyone has this bottle of a 10-year-old wine.
Gotcha.
And you bring it to share.
Community.
Yeah, it's community, and it's like, hey, I thought this would go great with this meal, or we wanted to share this with you guys, or whatever. So it's not really just about just the drinking aspect of it, and it's just fun. I just kind of grew up that way and just always loved that part of it.
I love that.
Yeah.
Same for you. You're just,
Her parents, pretty much.
Okay.
Sucked him into
Those Tuesday night dinners.
Gotcha.
It was a lot. Yeah, it expanded the dinner, by that much more time to talk about the wine and
For sure.
just kind of learn through tasting, and yeah.
Well, that's what I would say too, is like learning about all of it. Because I think a lot of people, especially when they're younger, they're maybe early mid-20s. I know the typical wine like transition is, okay, you've got some Riverboat Red, or some Moscato, and then all of a sudden, like really where we changed was living in Weston.
Yeah.
And going to some of the wineries and
Right.
just trying new things, and
Yeah.
everybody says, oh well, this is dry, or this is I can't
Yeah.
do. Why do you think the change in like the occurrence kind of where you just kind of get a little bit better?
I think it's just like anybody's palate. Like when you're a kid, right? Like all you want is candy.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's
that's
just the
true.
way our mouths are. Like you want like candy, you want sweet. So most people do start Moscato, and if you still love Moscato, there's nothing wrong with that. My favorite thing about wine is that it's a food group to me, essentially. So it's like you like what you like, and that's okay. You can try other things to kind of broaden your education and like try new foods, essentially. But like if you don't like it, that's just fine also. But I just, if anybody says they started off drinking gigantic Syrahs. They're lying to you. And they did not. They didn't. I mean, my dad brought in like South African whites because Moscato wasn't really even a thing. But and that's a sweeter white.
Okay.
And that's kind of where, okay, I have some appreciation for this. Yeah, I can taste the fruit in this. Yeah, this is cool. Thank you. This does go good with this. And I think the important part of it, wine is just that. Drink what you like. Be willing to try other things. Yeah. I think it's a fun thing to bring and share with friends and family and talk about. To me, it's essentially like a food group.
Gotcha.
Because wine's the only thing that really changes in the bottle. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, like beer, the great thing about beer, and I get that too, is like you buy a beer every year, that beer, it's the same beer, right? Which is what you want, right? You buy a bourbon, that bourbon every year, it better be the same bourbon because that's what you want. But wine, I love wine because it actually changes every year, vintage to vintage, which just means the date on it.
Okay.
It's, 1 year this might be my favorite, but then 1 year might kind of go, I don't like it as much and he likes it more or whatever. And so it actually changes, and that's the beauty of it.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
So
I had
this
no idea.
Would be like a good example here of what we might experience at a tasting at WingHill.
Right.
Yeah.
4 different selections,
Exactly.
all different, and that's how my wine taste changed because I used to be an only sweet drinker too. And then I kept getting invited to these wine tastings, so sure that my friends would never get me to cross over to the dry red. Like, you guys are crazy. I will never drink the dry red stuff, and now it's all I drink.
Yeah.
But it's because, I drank what I liked, but I was willing to try other things, especially if it was free.
Right, exactly. That's what we love doing, because that's what we try to tell people. Like, it's a complimentary tasting.
Yes.
So and people always like, oh, I didn't really like that. I'm like, you know what? That's okay. I didn't make it. I wish I did, but I didn't. So you're never going to offend us. These are just wines that we've selected. We have a kind of a varied palate. We want to make sure everyone's enjoying these different wines, and that's what we try to bring into town. Especially we love Pleasant Hill. I think Pleasant Hill is very overlooked in a lot of ways for a lot of things.
I agree.
And we've been so blessed in so many ways of we have a huge dynamic group of people that come in. Some people who know a ton, and then some people who are like, I haven't had a Pinot Blanc. I want to try this Pinot Blanc. Maybe they hate it. I don't care, but then they had a Pinot Blanc tonight, and then they were like, okay.
And that's the most fun for us, is people who
That's what we
want
like.
to experience new things, and us being able to kind of guide them in those directions. That's kind of really why we love being in it so much.
So
For sure.
what do we have here? What is this one that we got in front of us?
This is called the Diver. It is a sparkling rosé. It's actually 50% Pinot Noir, 50% Chardonnay,
Okay.
And I love the
out of
label.
California. Yeah.
I
so
buy
cute.
wine for the labels primarily. Yeah.
So cute.
But loads of strawberry, bright fruit, really good effervescence.
Kinda
It's
looks like
really,
we're
really
in a
nice.
total honeymoon where-
It is so cute.
Oh my gosh.
And I will say, this is another good example of trying something. I would have probably not purchased this because I was sure I'm not a rosé person anymore, but I like this.
Oh, it's delicious.
See,
so
and
good.
We are huge rosé people because it's the red wine drinker's white wine, right? Because you pretty much have a red varietal in them, right?
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, there's a little Pinot Noir. This is our Sunday afternoon.
Yes.
This is
like
really, really good.
enjoyment. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just like this nice, happy little, just.
Yeah, I'm
Sometimes
with
you want a little
Jannie.
bubbles.
I'm with Jannie. I probably wouldn't have just purchased it for myself.
No, but I definitely like it. And this, you said this is Pinot Noir and Chardonnay.
And
Yeah,
Chardonnay.
50-50. I think it comes in at like $13.75. It's under $14, so it's
Wow.
a solid price point.
I was gonna say, I think
Yeah.
everything.
And the label is cute.
It's cute.
And obviously it's best served cold.
Served cold.
You want a little chill on it. And I think the other thing too is drink wine how you like it, but don't make them too cold.
Okay.
I think that happens to a lot of people because
Okay.
if they're too cold, you can't taste anything, right? Like if you,
Good
you know what I
point.
mean, anything in life, like if it's
am
really, really cold.
I know. I'm getting some education.
No, that's another thing that I want to talk about too. And people will probably make fun of me for this, but what's the correct way to do a wine tasting? Because I see, I'm just spinning my glasses because I see everybody else doing it. So what is that actually doing?
So there isn't a correct way to do a wine
There you go,
tasting.
exactly. I think
It's all about fun and hanging out with people you like. But the spinning the wine thing, what that's doing is it's kind of opening the wine up to more
Aerating it.
aerating it, exactly, more complex flavors and more on the nose.
sometimes you just try to put literally oxygen into it. So a
Exactly.
wine like this, you don't really have to. Sometimes it's more habit than anything. But if you're trying a wine and you're like, I don't smell or taste anything, warm it up and then give it a little spin, and then usually that will help. But sometimes when you're like, I don't taste anything, it could be like really cold water. It's just too cold, or kind of warm it up. Spin it.
Got it. Okay, yeah, I really like that.
That's a
Smell
good
of
tip.
this one is
What's so is one of these is like whiter wines? Are they lower on the alcohol content level, or are they higher with the reds?
They
and stuff?
can be. Like typically they are lower.
Okay.
But some of them, we also have a bunch of like really low alcohol reds at the store. So that is kind of in like the winemaker's hands. That comes down to stuff that would bore everybody, but like sugar content in the grapes essentially is what is going to make a wine like higher octane, higher alcohol.
Okay.
So cooler climates like Oregon, they tend to be lower alcohol. And then warmer climates, parts of California, especially like Paso, one of our favorite places, they tend to be higher alcohol, but that's just all the sunshine into the grapes is just going to
So when you guys decide what wines to have in the store, do you travel and go try, or have you, or how did that get?
So we do, but through the store, it's actually we deal with several different wine reps who come through and taste us on wines.
Most of
Okay.
them
And
we've
we
had
curate through that.
through
Okay.
the years, and so we try to just make sure we have a good selection for everybody, because it doesn't make sense if we just had Cab Sauv.
Right,
It doesn't
right.
make sense if we just had Pinot Noir. So we try to have a little bit of everything, and then we do try to rotate it as frequently as we can, because the store is smaller than Red Door, like our previous building. And so we try to bring stuff in, and then if it sells out, we try to put something new in the slot. And then if
Okay.
people are like, oh my gosh, I love that, we can reorder it.
Got
It's
it.
no problem.
Very cool.
So how many? I'm assuming you've been to quite a few wineries just around the country.
Couple.
few.
Yeah.
A few.
And do you have any recommendation? I've never been to a winery other than something in Missouri.
Sure.
Which
Weston's pretty close to Napa Valley.
it's
They
like,
call it Napa,
it
it's
counts,
younger
but
brother,
like it's
actually.
not the same. So if you were going to recommend, if I was only ever going to go to one winery in my life, where should I go?
Whoa, what
So
winery?
let's-
That would be
let's-
hard. I can
Okay,
tell
we
you
need
one
top three.
area. I
Let's
can top
switch
three.
it to top wine region.
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe
Okay, yeah,
wine
there we
region.
go.
So, I mean, it's not to shun anything. We have been a lot of places, but we love Paso Robles, which is in California,
On the Central Coast.
Central Coast. A lot of what we love about it is literally like being in a small town. It still has that feeling of like you might walk into that winery and you're going to see the owners, like you're going to see if you come into
Oh,
our
cool.
wine shop, right?
Very cool.
But if you go into a lot of big places, understandably, you're gonna meet like 50 people who work there. You're never gonna see that winemaker. You're sure as heck never gonna see the owner. Paso is one of our favorite places because you can pop in there and still meet the person who's.
Didn't you do that for one of your tastings, Paso Robles?
Yes.
Okay, I thought, okay.
We're big Paso people.
Okay.
Yeah, we had the Derby vineyards lineup.
Yes, that's what it was.
Yeah.
That's the one you and I went.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't get
yes.
invited that night.
Girls'
It
night.
was girls only.
Next time.
That's the one Michaela was
Don't
at
miss
with us,
these
too.
nights.
Yes,
Just
yes,
pop
yes,
in,
yes.
try, and pop out.
Yeah. Okay. So Paso Robles.
Paso Robles. Yes.
So on that note, this next one is actually a Chardonnay by Jay Wilkes, and it's in Santa Maria Valley, which is just south of Paso Robles, but still on
Okay.
the Central Coast. And it's a really nice Chardonnay.
So I
What are
need to
Tony's
visit
favorites?
California is what you're telling me.
Yes, I mean, mostly probably a big part of our love affair with that area is that like when we would travel is when the weather is good there. I'm almost there. The weather is good, and honestly, we fell in love with Paso. We'd been back several times just because of the people, much like Pleasant Hill, much like a small
like
town where you
Pleasant
just
Hill.
kind of come in and
Yeah.
literally we went into a restaurant one night. Oh my gosh, it was delicious. Like 2 nights later, we went back to that same restaurant. Those people were like, "Oh, Marlowe's from the Midwest, from Missouri."
Aw.
That doesn't happen really
Yeah.
too many places.
I literally
Ever.
just had a winemaker from Paso text me 2 minutes ago while we were talking. Yeah,
It was meant to be.
Yeah.
It's like meant to be in a conversation.
there are people.
So,
Yeah.
what advice would you give someone wanting to start their own business, especially in the retail industry? What would your advice be?
I don't mind. Just don't ever take no for an answer. And don't actually, you know what, don't be afraid to ask, because I think that was the only thing I've ever done right. Was that it's so embarrassing to ask and get like told no, but you just have to get over that. And I think very early on, or as early as you can get over that feeling of like you're gonna ask a lot of people and a lot of people are gonna tell you no. And I mean like all the time in every part of your life.
Yeah.
But like all it takes is one person to say like, yeah, that's a great idea, or yeah, I'll give you a loan, or yeah, you know, that mindset I think is very important. And I will say that was a lot of my upbringing here in the Midwest and a lot of my parents, but that is my big thing is the worst thing anybody can ever tell you is no, and just don't be afraid of no.
And just be confident and do it. You could convince yourself out of it all day long.
Yeah.
But if you just get to work and do it, then, and if you have the confidence behind it, it'll work out.
Absolutely. Yeah, and like worst case scenario is you're back to where you were before you started.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's very true.
Yeah.
So which one, you said Santa Maria Valley.
Santa Maria Valley, it's called J. Wilkes is the winery.
Okay.
And it's a 100% Chardonnay. Fun fact about Santa Maria Valley, it is the second oldest wine appellation in the United States after Napa Valley.
Oh, wow.
So it's been around for forever.
Another place you could go.
Yeah.
There's so many places,
So
really.
from Paso to Santa Maria Valley, I don't know exactly how far it is, but it's probably within like an hour and a half, 2 hours,
Okay.
just to the south. Actually,
So we
it's
can
really
call that one winery.
exactly,
Even
and
There you
it
go.
sits really close to the ocean,
Yeah.
so you can get those beach vibes and hit the
Yes,
wineries.
a little winery, so yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
This is really good. It's very smooth, buttery.
Oh,
I'm not
So-
normally a Chardonnay girl, and this is, like you said, smooth.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about it is the buttery aspect that you're getting, typically that comes from oak aging, and this is 100% stainless steel,
That's crazy.
so it's coming all from
isn't
the
that
grapes.
fun?
Yeah.
So like the way they kind of make them and like the different fermentation process they do is like can make stuff smoother. But I like wine because at the same time too, if you're like, I really dislike this wine, dump it in something. Don't force yourself to drink it. Just like the same way with food. Like I'm big on even with our kiddos, like try a bite. But if you hate it, like I get it.
Yeah.
Like, try
Yep.
everything. And so to me, it's essentially it's a food group. Try and see what you like.
What makes wine a $200 bottle versus a $10 bottle?
A lot of things.
Yeah, so that does come down to, so some of it would be where you are, right? So obviously here in the Midwest, we do have some really good wineries. Obviously, real estate here is a far different price than if you're on the coast or than if you're in the middle of California. It also comes down to how long you're going to barrel age something. I don't think a lot of wineries in our area are going to hold on to stuff for 5 years, 6 years in a barrel. I mean, if you think about making wine, these people are sitting on product for a very, very long time. I mean, you are spending a lot of money and then you're hopefully going to get that money back in like 5 years. It's crazy.
Yep.
So that comes a big part of it, and who your winemaker is, how big your facility is.
Yeah, quality of the grapes and the amount of hands-on the actual winemaking process is big. And then another thing would be supply and demand.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's probably the biggest.
Yeah.
If you have a winery that doesn't make that much wine, but it is killer wine,
Yeah.
then you can charge a ton for it because it's already sold before it's even made.
Got it.
Wow.
So
I've never thought, I don't know why, but I've never thought about the real estate piece that you
Me
just said
neither.
too. Like,
Yeah.
Of course something that's coming from,
Yeah.
like obviously, I always just thought, it's just the reputation, right?
Yeah.
It's just the
Yeah.
name, that's whatever it is,
Yeah.
which supply
Yeah.
and demand, that's what you're talking about. But the real estate piece, obviously it's like any business, the more people you have to have their hands on, the more people you're paying, the longer, so.
Dropping knowledge
Okay.
bombs.
yeah, you can think of it as an asset. I mean, just like a stock, supply and demand, all of the common themes to an asset that is wine. So that kind of drives the price.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever contemplated starting your own vineyard?
We did actually. that is funny because we actually really wanted to. So we have our home here, and then we did own like another 30 acres right by the lake here,
City Lake
City Lake.
Okay.
on Smart Road.
On Smart Road, yeah, that we absolutely loved. That was a beautiful property, and I loved it. And we really worked hard for several years trying to make that kind of fall together for us. But the problem is that it's hard to make really good wine
Yeah.
in Missouri for our palates. I think there is really good wine in Missouri, and to do that was just very cost prohibitive for us, just because of all the infrastructure you would need.
Yeah.
And we really like a variety of things. I'm very much like weather depending, day depending. how were the kids that day? How were the horses that day? Who's coming over for dinner? What did we do? You know, it depends on what I'm drinking. And so the nice thing about not having a winery where maybe I'm only selling 6 to 10 of our wines is we have the world essentially ahead of us. So maybe some days I want something from Argentina, I want a little Malbec, and the next day I want a California Chardonnay, and the next day I want a Pinot Noir from Oregon. So we just really decided to stay on the side, the retail side, where we can have a little bit of everything at our fingertips.
I'm glad you did.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So
Here in
we-
Pleasant Hill.
Yes.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's good. Well,
So if you were going to, let's say hypothetically, have your own label, have you thought about what it would be?
That's a fun question.
Yeah.
The variety or the
Well, just
name?
like, okay.
The name of your
the name
vineyard.
of your vineyard.
Ooh, I don't know.
What it would look like. Would there be horses on the label?
Oh,
probably?
yes, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Okay.
The problem is there's a very well-known, very
Oh.
high-end wine called Horsepower,
Uh-huh.
and we have the boxes in the store because we are on their thing. But that is actually a name I've always loved. And then literally when that wine came out and was getting great scores, it's fabulous wine.
Yeah.
But I was like, dang it, that's the name I totally would have done.
Maybe
Yeah.
you don't want to
Maybe
say
like
it on
a
here.
horseshoe, like some sort of horse adjacent.
Yes.
I can't talk either. Horse adjacent.
Yes.
Thing.
It's fun tying it together,
Yeah.
especially because we have the horse farm
Yeah.
and all of that. And it kind of fits like the Pleasant Hill thing too a little bit. It's been really fun meeting like people that ride other disciplines but have horses, and so it would definitely have some.
Maybe a rooster.
Coordination.
Pleasant Hill rooster on it.
Yeah.
There we go. There
We
we
do
go.
have chickens as well, so we can incorporate.
We have
some.
there you go. The kids have chickens.
That's true.
Our
You're like,
children.
those are not mine.
Those are the children's problem.
So what
So-
else do we have here?
Let's get into the
What's
reds.
next? In the reds.
So next we have the Bedrock Old Vine Zinfandel.
You exit.
oh,
I
sorry.
like Zinfandel.
Oh, you're good.
Big fan of Zinfandel.
Well, and like if you're gonna have, I mean, that is the classic pairing. But if you're gonna have barbecue or anything like that, like, is there anything better than Zen with it? I mean, it's really.
Or you don't have to pair it with anything and just drink it on its own.
There you go,
sometimes
perfect.
do.
Well, Tony used to do like the smoking competitions.
Competitive barbecue.
Competitive
really?
barbecue,
What
yeah.
have they not done?
That's what I want to know.
Well, I mean, on a small.
Not to say I
scale.
was particularly good at it, but I
Well,
It
I'm
was
gonna
really fun.
I'm gonna stop posting any of my barbecue because Tony's judging me.
no, yours looks amazing actually.
No, but it was really fun. So they used to do that big one in downtown Lee Summit, which I think they moved it away. And then we loved the one. This is the shout out for anybody who's in charge of that. There was a really cool one in Pleasant Hill that used to be at the fairgrounds. That I think the last year Tony was doing it was the year they did
It
it.
was Operation Barbecue, I think, was in
Is
charge
this
of
what
it.
Caleb
Well-
was just talking about?
Yeah, so
It was fabulous.
Is it
It was
Hayes?
super cool.
Yeah, Stan. Yeah.
Yeah, so he still has Operation Barbecue Relief that he
Yeah.
does where it goes, to hurricanes,
Yeah.
disasters,
Yeah,
that kind of
disasters.
stuff. I didn't know that he had a competition at the fair though.
It was so cool.
So if you're
He kinda
listening, what
sponsored
was his name?
Well, Stan Hayes.
Stan Hayes. We actually were talking about you this morning.
That's funny.
Well, and I think it would be such a fun thing because I don't know if we even lived out here. No, we did.
We did.
We lived out here when they did that, but it was everyone was there. It was a huge competition. I felt like they had sold out everything, and then it was so sad. I understand how hard it is to put stuff together, but you would have votes if you wanted to do that again because it was super fun at the fairgrounds. We brought
was-
tons of people in.
A competition, but also fundraiser for the benefit,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Okay.
We also have a former event coordinator
Oh.
here who
Very much retired.
might be good at
She's like, yep, nope.
It's like, no, thank you.
Tons of free time on me.
Yeah, she doesn't do anything anymore.
Fully
She's not busy at all.
would fully support it, but from the sidelines clapping. But it was really, really fun, and so I always think of like Zen. So we used to do the big nights where you try all the barbecue and
Yeah.
bring in
Yeah,
all
this
the
is good.
Zen.
I've never had
It's
one of
really,
these.
really
Yeah, so
good.
this is Bedrock Wine Company, Sonoma Winery, 100% Zinfandel, Old Vine Zinfandel. They actually source from some of the best Zinfandel vineyards in Sonoma, and it's kind of a blend of those grapes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really solid.
And then I have like a silly thing why I like Zen. Well, most Zen. Because it's the old vine, or like the standalone. If you ever see those pictures of like this really craggly looking little shrubby thing, I love that because it's usually Zen. Anything old vine, like they usually stand alone. They don't have to trellis it. So, you see like a lot of stuff trellis, they're lifting them. A lot of these plants, which is what I really wanted to do, but you have to be doing it for a long time to have that old of a plant, are more of like a head trained, head pruned. They look like,
Looks more of a bush.
yeah, it looks like this
Okay.
standalone bush, and you don't have to do all the trellising.
Than your
and stuff.
traditional grapevine.
Than your traditional
Okay.
grapevine. But again, you have to be at it for like 50 years.
You're like, I want to be retired by then.
Yeah, by then it's looking a little bit more like Florida for us.
Right?
This is really, really good.
Yeah, I've never had a Zinfandel.
And we were talking on the way
I
here,
just did it at your tasting. That
Yes.
was the first time I had it.
and like Katelyn said, it's quintessential barbecue is what you pair with it, but it's really versatile. It goes with about everything.
Or by itself.
Or by itself. Correct. Correct. Yeah, very good stuff.
Definitely a favorite.
So, like, as we're finishing this one up, like, what's kind of your go-to? Because I know you drink probably just about anything and everything, but is there something you find yourself going back to more than others?
See, honestly, not like one in particular because because to me it's like food. So it's like a very varied thing. And I think it just depends on the day.
Yeah.
Depends on the day of the time. Like, so if it's like an afternoon and like everything, we're kind of done with, farm chores or cheesecake. Yeah. So it's going to be something like the Diver to me, where you're just like, you know what, I'm going to sit on the couch. It doesn't need food. I mean, it's like a very easy drinking. It's not a huge alcohol wine. It's pink bubbles. Like, what's not to love? So that one we do have in the fridge very often because it's just nice if you even have like cheese and crackers. But as far as like an everyday wine, I don't really have one because I like to switch it up, or just, it was a great day, let's kind of celebrate. Or it was not such a great day. Okay, well, let's still open a good bottle of wine because that's going to make it better.
Yeah.
That sort of thing for me.
So after the Chiefs lost to the Bengals the other night, you needed the one like
Something
the angry
with a little
wine.
bit of bite. Yeah.
I think I switched to like a gin and tonic
I
at
was
that
gonna
point.
say,
That's what I'm gonna say. You don't even need wine at that point.
That's
You
when
need
bullet bourbon comes into play.
Yeah. The wine went away and we were just,
my gosh.
yeah.
So I asked earlier what your advice would be. What has been your biggest struggle?
Biggest struggle for this particular business or in general?
in general.
Business in
Just
general.
being some. I mean, because we talk to a lot of people, and we all in this office have aspirations of owning businesses and entrepreneurship and all that. So from your guys' standpoint, with whatever you've done with this business or anything, what has been your biggest struggle?
I think with any business, but it's something you guys do really, really well, is just getting the word out. I think there's a lot of people out there that would support businesses if they knew you were there. And so I think for us, especially if we're trying to be better, but it's just getting the word out and just the education and just letting people know like what you guys do. You're great with having, different videos and little blips and explaining stuff. And I think for any business, like that is the most important thing, and just really important even for like us, that we need to let people know, like, come into the store, the majority of wine is $20 and under.
Yeah.
You don't have to come in the
Yeah.
store. It's not like a specialty store. Like,
For sure.
This is just, we've lived in Pleasant Hill for 10 years.
That's
Nothing against Price Chopper,
Right.
but you cannot buy wine at Price Chopper. There's nothing there. There's nothing there.
The selection is not.
There's 4 options, and that's fine. But I think that Pleasant Hill deserves to have a few more options and try some stuff. And it's just fun. It's just supposed to be fun. Have friends over, have family, and all that
I
stuff. So
love that you're
the word out.
keeping the price point at a certain level, because when people think of a wine shop, most of the time they're probably thinking, oh, we're going to go in there and buy
exactly.
$200 bottles of
Right.
wine.
Right.
When really your effort is to keep that
Right.
good wines, but at a
Exactly.
more doable price.
It needs to be at a price that most people would feel like, we're having dinner with the in-laws or family or the wife or the boyfriend or just by yourself, and you just want to have a nice bottle of wine, but a nice bottle of wine can be $18. It can be $10.
Right.
So we really work hard on having wine like an everyday price. So we're not, we own the store, but we're not at home like, oh, I'm going to drink a $100 bottle. No, we drink the Diver. So good wine can come in at a really good price point, and that's my most important thing to educate people, is that it doesn't have to be like a treat to yourself situation. I love when people come in and they're like, I would really like to have 6 bottles and I'd really like it to be around this price point. We love doing that. That was my big thing at Red Door. You want a case because family's coming in town, you want some for the basement, some for you, some for later, some for Christmas presents. Just call us, message us, whatever, and let us know, hey, I want these all to be $10 bottles or $11 bottles. I'll put it together for you. You can come in and say yes, no. So we love that kind of stuff for people. And then also at the same time, if you're like, it's my birthday and I want a really nice bottle, we have nice 50 and up bottles.
I was going to say, give me the most expensive.
Right, exactly. So we have lots of options. Yeah. We have lots of options, but I think that is the hard thing with wine for people to understand is you can get it at every price point, but it doesn't mean you have to drink barefoot. We can find you something better than that.
So you're saying that the Boda box is not the best thing?
The Boda box is good. I'm saying there is all sorts of good wine. I'm just saying let your local wine shop help you out with some other options to let your palate kind of grow.
I do appreciate the fact that I feel like you guys, you obviously know your wine, but there's no judgment. Somebody who is not a wine person can come into your store and say, can you help me find something I like? And you're going to be able to find something for them at any price point, and they don't have to feel embarrassed about not knowing what they're doing.
That's literally my favorite thing is when someone's just like, this is what I like, and I'm like, perfect, let's go with that. That's truly what we love.
Yes.
And you guys are doing the tastings, so you're getting people in the door. Because one, they're free tastings.
Yes.
But then they're not leaving without something in hand.
Right.
Most of the time.
I have bought a bottle every single time I do a tasting.
And we appreciate it.
Yeah.
So, that's a really, really good way to get people in your door.
Right.
And once they're in there, there's no way they're not going to love it.
That's what I mean is I think too it just helps when people come in and they go, okay, let's look around here. We always try to have little price tags right out and we keep it very easy. They're mostly handwritten. I kind of love that. It's written by us and it's this is $15, this is $12, this is $19.99, and you come in and you try it and then you feel confident in your selection.
Right. Sure.
And that's all we want. We just want happy customers. I don't want you to come in and I don't know, I'm afraid to ask and buy a couple bottles. You go home, you drink, you try them, and this is awful. Well, you're never going to come back.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd much rather someone come in and say, I want this price point.
Yeah, to piggyback off that, our buy the glass menu, like Katelyn said in the beginning, it switches out every single month. But if somebody comes in and they're looking at it and they can't make up their mind, we let you taste anything on the menu. You can try it before you buy it. So I don't want you to buy a glass of wine and not enjoy it. So let's find something that you're going to like and go with that.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I never, the Zen, I would have just stuck with, I'm just a cab, that's what I do.
Yeah.
And
Napa cab combo.
but all three of these I've
They've
liked.
been really good.
Yeah. Well, and
But I
people
never
tend to stick with what they know they like, and so that's why go to one of the tastings and try something new and I've never ever felt pressured to buy anything, but I always want to when I leave because I've discovered that I like something that I didn't know I liked before.
Right.
For sure.
Our big thing is comfort. We live here in town. Our family's here. We've been doing the wine thing for a while, but really at the end of the day, it's been really fun meeting new people.
Yeah.
And it's, honestly, if somebody comes in and goes, you know what, this was just not my jam tonight. Again, we don't make the wine, so we don't take it personally at all. I'm just
That's
okay,
true.
well, if that wasn't your thing, then I'll just kind of make a little mental note that maybe, you don't like Pinots in your Merlot, or you like blends, or whatever. But,
So did you both grow up in the area?
Mm-hmm. In Blue Springs.
And both of you in Blue Springs. So are you guys high school sweethearts?
No, that's what's funny.
Okay,
Is that we grew up, 5 minutes from each other?
Yeah.
On the
at most.
same road, essentially, but 2 different neighborhoods. But we met in college.
She was 2 years younger than me. So we passed in the hallway all the time. But
Apparently. I knew his mom because she was in the principal's office because she was the secretary.
Wait, what?
Yeah. His mom was the secretary for the principal. So, everyone knew his mom because she was she's the best.
She was really there just to pick him up, right?
Probably just
For
to keep
being
an
a drunk.
eye. Probably just to
Pretty
keep
much.
an eye on him. But we met actually in college. But we are both from Blue Springs. We actually went to the same church. We were both wow. Yeah, we got married in the church that we were confirmed in, baptized in. Yeah, it was a very a funny series of events for us later
Orbited
in
around
life.
each other for
you
a
were
while
that-
before you got
Yeah.
together.
That
Yeah.
close together, but never
Isn't
really
that
knew each
weird?
other.
Yeah.
Right.
Where'd you guys go to college at?
Missouri State.
I was going to say SMS. It was SMS when we were
SMS
there,
when
but
we
now
were
it's
I started at SMS.
yes. So we say SMS, and people are like, huh?
Yeah,
I'm
and I
like,
still
MSU.
have this sweatshirt that says SMS, and I get weird looks sometimes where is
But I'm just always like, it's vintage.
It's vintage,
It
yes.
makes it cooler.
Yeah.
It used to be CMSU, at
Yeah,
Owensburg,
we're
and then
using
it's
them.
There you
so-
go. Yeah, it changes. So
It changed, 1 or 2 years before we started there. So
Oh, gotcha.
we were borderline.
Yeah, it was actually weird for me to say UCM for.
Yeah.
I still
My
don't
parents,
say it.
that's where my parents met as well, and it was CSMU, or CMSU back
Yeah.
then, so.
It's hard when they switched around because people are like, where'd you go? I'm like SMS, and he'll say MSU, so it sounds like we didn't go to the same place. And I'm like, but it transferred at some point when we were there.
Yeah.
That's how we met, was at school, but it was funny. We were from Blue Springs.
There you go.
Yeah.
Jaguars or Wildcats?
Wildcats.
Wildcats.
Okay.
Yeah, we are north side.
High School Musical.
Yeah. North side
And
of
it's
town.
time to wrap it up.
So Napa Cab.
Quick.
Scattered Peaks. Really, really nice. Comes in at like $28, I think. So under $30. Drinks like a $50 plus Napa Cab. Really, really good.
This is delicious. I'm typically a cab person too.
Yeah.
And this is so good.
We love this one too because especially for the holidays, if you're bringing that over to somebody's house, it's the same, just how they do bottles, but doesn't that bottle look bigger?
Yeah.
It does.
It does.
I mean, it
Thicker
is.
glass.
It's the same amount in there, but they do a nicer glass. They do.
And it's a pretty label. Again, I love it.
It's a good little holiday
Love
wine.
the label.
Can't go wrong with a cab. It's always the crowd pleaser. We do have people come in frequently. We're trying to buy bosses gifts and that sort of thing. And I will say, 9 times out of 10, you want to go cab soft because it just kind of buddies.
So do you guys have a website for your WingHill Wine?
You would think, but we do not
Not
yet.
Yeah, stick to
Facebook
Instagram or
page.
Facebook.
Yes,
yeah.
I was going to say, oh gosh.
I'm working on it. I've
What
got
is
there.
your handle for Instagram? Do you know?
Just
Is it
WingHill Wine Co.
WingHill Wine Co.
Yep.
Perfect.
That was something good about that name. We tossed around so many names, but there was nothing touching that name. There's nobody else out there that wants it apparently.
Where did the name come from?
You want to do this one? Or?
The name came from our other property, the 30 acres. We really were going to do a WingHill winery.
Okay.
And on that 30 acres, I really want to do retirement horses because of what we do. And with horses in general, I think people forget that they live to be 30 plus years old.
Right.
It can be very expensive. We all understand that.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to have a really nice kind of final place for them that maybe wasn't as expensive as what we do with all the arenas, bringing them into a stall every day, So that was really our plan for a long time, was to have WingHill Winery and have some retirement horses out there, because I was like, oh my gosh, if I was at a winery and there's horses walking around in the background, first of all, pictures, amazing. Second of all, I would just want to live there. So I go a lot off of what I want. And we just always called that place. I mean, it was always WingHill, something about it, maybe a little bit religious.
cool.
I don't know. It just always kind of went with that. And we tried to name the store 45 other things. Really hard, we did. And it just kept coming back.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
I
So
love
it
it.
works.
Your logo is amazing.
it is. And
Thank
I've always
you.
wondered what the story was behind the name.
Yeah.
Props
Yeah,
to
just-
Brian
I was
over
gonna
at
s-
Press Monkey.
Yeah.
Yeah, we sent him, I was like, I need, and we love the kind of wing stuff, and it all went together, and we sent Brian at Press Monkey all of our little ideas, and he put it all
Perfect.
together.
Yep. I love it.
I just want to before we finish up, one of the things that you mentioned earlier about getting your name out there and trying to just be, at the, on people's minds basically. I would say that not that we're the best at it in the world, but because insurance is totally different than having a wine store. Okay.
People are not excited about it.
Wine is fun. Insurance is you have to have it.
Yeah, it's important.
But what I would say to that is though, even with what we try to do, and we have the girls, and Michaela runs our Instagram and our Facebook stuff and all that, and it's just constantly being, I don't know what's in the subconscious of people.
Yeah.
Even when they're not needing something, right?
Yeah.
So I think with you guys having your wine store and doing what you're doing, just even whenever it doesn't feel like you're putting something new out there, or it's the same thing, or it's just continuously putting your name there, and it's, hey, there's not very many places in Pleasant Hill. There's nowhere in Pleasant Hill like this, and it just continues to
So
I
for
don't know,
us,
be there no matter what.
Yeah.
people may not always stop and watch whatever's out there or read what's ever out there or whatever, but they're seeing it.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
popping up on their news feed. So whenever they do need our services,
Yeah, it's
and
top
that's
of mind.
yes, when somebody does want to plan an event in your back
Yeah.
room,
Yeah.
or which we didn't even hit on, you guys
Yeah.
have a back space that you can rent out,
Yeah.
or if they want to do a Christmas party or anything,
Right.
you guys have that option, and so just putting it at the forefront so that people can.
Our
Remember
content.
them.
We're just gonna hire you guys to start doing our content.
I love when I see your pictures because they're always like perfect pictures.
They are
Like-
perfect.
You should just video
Is that
yourself
you?
walking in the front door of every single day, just videoing it,
This is
walking
Tony's
in, and
life.
here's what
You
it
don't
looks
want to
like.
see me walking in there every single day.
Some days it's really clean, and some days when it's been a lot of fun the night before, it's not so clean. But no, we appreciate you guys. Just do like such a lovely job that I'm not kidding. If you ever get a slow down, make you guys come over and do some marketing for me.
There we
Maybe
go.
we should film some stuff at WingHill.
There you go.
There we go. I like this
That's
idea.
what I'm thinking. Like we could just do a mashup.
Yes.
A little
Yeah,
bit of
and we
collaboration.
That
like
back
on our
room would be
breaks.
available.
Wine compensation.
Maybe.
I think the back room would be available for some meetings.
There we go. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on. We've been talking about this for several months.
Yeah, thanks for doing it on such short notice last week too, on getting it
Yeah.
finalized and set up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and for anybody in Pleasant Hill or the surrounding areas, definitely go to one of the wine tastings because
Absolutely.
just even here at the table, we've been to a few of the wine tastings. Just here, I've discovered some things that I didn't know
Yep.
I liked.
For
So
sure.
try
For sure.
something new and broaden your horizons.
Absolutely.
Thank you
Broaden
guys so
horizons.
Yeah,
much.
thank you for having us. Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I'm out.
Bye, guys.